After nearly 100 consecutive days of falling gas prices, fuel costs are once again on the rise in recent weeks.
And the price increase coincides with the lead up to the midterm elections, a trend that could determine which party gains control of Congress. The approval rating of President Biden has tracked closely with gas prices. Since the increase in prices took hold 2 weeks ago, the president's disapproval rating has risen nearly 1.1 percentage points.
So what is in store for lawmakers and for drivers heading to the pump?
We are joined now by Patrick DeHaan from GasBuddy.com, a good friend of the show. Patrick, it's always nice to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oil is certainly a global commodity, but it inevitably gets politicized, especially this time of the year. What are we seeing in terms of gas prices towards the end of October right now?
Yeah, that's right. Certainly very political, as you mentioned just a moment ago. Prices had started to go back up. A lot of the reason why the national average and gas prices across the country started to go up was one of two things: either refinery issues that predominantly hit the West Coast and the Great Lakes, or OPEC's decision to cut production, which caused oil to go up, and that caused prices to go up a couple of weeks ago. That really ended a few days ago, though. Now prices are starting to go back down. Oil prices have dropped yet again. And now the price in Charlotte down to about $3.52 a gallon. That's down about 6 cents from a week ago. And the downturn should continue. I think we'll continue to see prices give up a little bit of ground ahead of the election. Of course, it has nothing to do with the election. I know a lot of folks with tinfoil hats may disagree, but this has everything to do with gasoline's seasonality. Americans are driving less as temperatures cool off.
And what are some of the areas, I guess, in the Southeast? Are you seeing certain areas or certain times where the prices are dropping the most? I know you mentioned out west, sort of took a hit and it's dropping out there. But what about the Southeast?
Well, the Southeast is one of the areas that's seeing a smaller downturn. Really, the attention is in the West Coast, where California is seeing its second largest, or I should say second quickest decline we've ever seen. The Great Lakes seeing a bit of a downturn. But keep in mind, the South prices didn't really shoot up as much as they did in those other areas. So prices are only modestly coming down, a trend that could continue for the next couple of weeks. Of course, it's been an extremely volatile year for oil prices, and that's what could influence gas as we close out the year. If OPEC decides to cut production again, we could see gas prices going up by the end of the year. But all in all, what normally happens is prices give up ground as we get closer to the end of the year. I know that may be surprising given that the holidays are around the corner, but Americans continue to drive less, again, as they start to hibernate ahead of the winter.
What are the prospects of a potential recession doing to the oil market?
Well, certainly that's one thing that has spooked oil companies. That's certainly one of the reasons that OPEC has cited for cutting production, is that an economic downturn will push demand lower. More Americans out of a job, they have no job to drive to, less economic activity. Americans aren't buying as much in a recession. So that means less transportation. And generally speaking, demand for gasoline and oil and other products tends to decline significantly depending on the degree of recession. So that is certainly something the market is keeping an eye on, certainly in China as well, where imports of oil have dropped, kind of signaling that China could be on the cusp of a slowdown.
We typically talk more about gas than we do diesel, but when we're looking at that, when it comes to agriculture, our food, when it looks shipping, we've got Christmas will be here before you know it, so a lot of shipping is going on. What are we looking at with diesel?
Well, diesel's a completely different ballgame. The two couldn't be further in terms of the trends. Gas prices going down, diesel prices have been going up. A lot of the reason for that is diesel demand and a lack of inventory. Part of that has to do with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Europe trying to cut off the flow of Russian oil. They're buying more American products. More diesel is heading overseas, and inventories of diesel in the U.S. are at some of the lowest levels we've seen in quite some time. We're down to about 25 days of diesel or distillate inventory, and that is what is keeping diesel prices high, and it could get worse over the course of the winter.
How does that supply improve? Does more need to be purchased, or what does that look like?
Well, it's a very challenging road to recovery here for diesel. We've lost about 1 million barrels of refining capacity. And again, it's not political. This is primarily due to refineries that had shut down because of low demand during COVID. Some of those refineries have started to come back. Some of them have been permanently dismantled. There have also been some outages because of Hurricane Ida a couple of years ago, permanently damaging a refinery down in Louisiana, another one shutting down in Canada. So a lot of these refinery issues have caused output or capacity to drop, and that is why we're finding it difficult to really make any gains in terms of diesel inventories. There's just not enough refining capacity.
Patrick, there's a big piece in the New York Times today about gas prices in general that you're a part of. What is it about gas prices that really just impacts all of our moods? I mean, we see the price every day, whether you fill up or not.
Well, that's exactly it. You really can't escape what gas prices are, right? Everyone knows what the price of gas may be. We see it every day, even if we don't need to fill up with it. And of course, when you go to the gas pump, you're watching your bank account drain as the numbers go up. And that really causes us to feel kind of lousy, especially when prices are as high as they have been this year.
Patrick DeHaan with GasBuddy.com. Thank you for your insight into the gas prices. You're right. No matter what, it's out of our control. So just take a deep breath, right? Whether it goes up or down. Thanks for your time today. We always appreciate it.
My pleasure.